Ilabas nyo ang inyong mga sinula! Malakas man ang kanyon at baril ng Espanya! Lalaban tayo hanggang sa huling hininga! Punitin ang sinula!
Ang hindi marunong magmahal sa sariling wika, masahol pa sa hayop o malansang isda. Consumatum est. Ang kabataan, ang pag-asa ng bayan.
Fuego!
The battlefield is in the Philippines. There is where we should be. There we will help one another. There, together, we will suffer or triumph, perhaps.
Rizal and Lucia arrive in Manila 26th of June 1892. Sunday at 12 noon and met by many carabineers headed by a major. There were in addition one captain and one sergeant of the veteran civil guard. Came down with the luggage and they inspected at a custom house. From there, Rizal went to Hotel de Oriente, where he occupied room number 22 facing the Church of Binondo. In the afternoon, at 4 o'clock, he went to Malacanang Palace to meet with the Spanish Governor General, General Eulogio Despujol, Conde de Caspe.
Buenas tardes, General Espujol. Buenas tardes, sí. Shall we see? Sí. Come back at night to see, at 7 o'clock.
Gracias y adios.
Adios. See.
Promptly at 7 p.m., Rizal returned to Malacanang and was able to confer with Governor General Despujol.
I agree to pardon your father, but not the rest of your family. Just return on Wednesday. Si. Gracias y adios. Adios.
After his brief interview, he visited his sisters in the city. First, Narcisa, Sisa, wife of Antonio Lopez.
Basta naman kami, Gil. Hindi ba kumusunod siya? Salamat kayo.
'And later, Eneng, Saturnina, wife of Manuel T. Hidalgo. "6 p.m. of the following day, June 27, Rizal boarded a train in Tutuban Station and visited his friends in Malolos, Bulacan.
Ikinagagalak kong makita ka muli.
His friend on San Fernando, Pampanga,
Georgia! Uy, Georgia! Lalayip. Gusto mo ba, buhay? Maayo kayo? Maayo lugar-lugar, di ba? Maayo. Paano ba? Tubo na. Gusto mo ko, pre?
Rizal returned by train to Manila the next day, June 28 at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
The homes he had visited were raided by the Guardia Civil, who seized some copies of the Noli and El Fil and some subversive pamphlets.
On Wednesday, June 29, at 7:30, after Rizal visited his friends in Central Luzon, he had other interviews with Governor General Disbuol. The following day, Thursday, June 30, they talk about the questions of Borneo.
I was opposed to it. Very opposed.
He told Rizal to come back on Sunday. Rizal returned and talked about sundry things.
Buenas noches.
On the evening of Sunday, July 3, 1892, Rizal attended a meeting of the Patriots. Rizal explained the objectives of the Liga Filipina, a civic league of Filipinos, which he desired to establish and its role in the socio-economic life of the people. He presented the constitution of the Liga, which he had written in Hong Kong, and discussed its provisions. The patriots were favorably impressed and gladly approved the establishments of the Liga. On Wednesday, July 6, Rizal went to Malacanang Palace to resume a series of interviews with the Governor General. During this interview, Governor General Despujol suddenly showed him some printed leaflets which were allegedly found in Lucia's pillowcases.
Arrest this man!
These incriminatory leaflets were entitled Pobres Frailes. They were a satire against the rich Dominican friars who amassed fabulous riches contrary to their monastic vow of poverty. Shortly after midnight of July 14, Rizal was brought under heavy guard to the Captain Cebu, which was brought to Pitan. Captain Delgras went ashore and handed Rizal over to Captain Ricardo Carnicero, Spanish commandant of the Pitan. The steamer Cebu, which brought Rizal to the Pitan, carried a letter from Father Pablo Pastels, superior of the Jesuit Society in the Philippines, to Father Antonio Abac, Jesuit parish priest of the Pitan. In this letter, Father Superior Pastels informed Father Abac that Rizal could live at the parish convent of the following conditions. First, that Rizal publicly retracts his errors concerning religion and make statements that were clearly pro-Spanish and against revolution. Second, that he performed the church rites and make a general confessions of his past life. Third, that henceforth he conduct himself in an exemplary manner as a Spanish subject and a man of religion.
Welcome to the Pitan!
Rizal did not agree with these conditions. Consequently, he lived in the house of the commandant, Captain Carnicero. The relationship between Carnicero and Rizal were warm and friendly.
Bueno, Ricardo Carcinero, Komandante Politiko Militar D. Dapitan. Ano? I welcome you to our town.
Gracias, Kapitan!
Padre, this is Jose Rizal.
Si, Kapitan. I know him. The notorious writer of No Limit Tangere and El Filibusterismo. A filibuster of its own place on his own land. A betrayal to the magistrate. A shame to Catholicism. Yes, Kapitan. I know him.
How do you find Dapitan, Dr. Rizal?
Well, I found it rather lonely than quiet.
You will get used to it. Moving on, based from the letter of Gobernador General, you are hereby given a chance where you want to stay, at the Casa Comandante or at the Convento.
At the convento, I will not let a filibuster live in my house unless he go back to Catholicism and confess all his sins.
Don't worry, Padre. I will stay at Capitan Carnicero's house.
You are already safe in Hong Kong. Why did you come back? Why did you return?
I came back because the battle is here, and we're fighting for the reformers.
Reforma? What reforms are you talking about?
Well, these reforms affected...
Senyor Rizal, magandang araw po. Nanalo po kayo sa Roto, Senyor.
Oh really?
Thank you! I won the lottery, Capitan! Now I can build my own school and my clinic.
Happy for you, Doctor.
Thank you.
While Rizal was still debating with Father Pastels by means of exchange of letters, he became involved in a quarrel with a Frenchman acquaintance in the Pitan, Mr. Juan Lardet, a businessman. This man purchased many lags from the lands of Rizal. It so happened that some of the lags were of poor quality.
If he were a truthful man, he would have told me that the lumber not included in the account were bad.
When the commandant heard of the incident, Carnicero told the Frenchman to apologize rather than accept the challenge.
My friend, you have not Chinaman's chance in fight with Rizal in honor of Phil. Rizal is an expert of martial arts, particularly in fencing and pistol shooting.
Heeding the commandant's advice, Lardet wrote to Rizal in French, dated Dapitan, March 30, 1893, apologizing for the insult incoming. Rizal, as a gentleman and a well-versed in Pondonor, accepted the apology, and a good relationship between him and the Frenchman were restored. Immediately upon his arrival in Dapitan, Father Sanchez lost no time in meeting his former favorite student. Of all the Jesuits, he was the most beloved and esteemed by Rizal. Almost daily, they carried theological arguments in a friendly manner, but all the efforts of Sanchez were in vain. For once, Rizal could not convince by his former beloved teacher. Despite his failure to persuade Rizal to discard his unorthodox view on the Catholic religion, Father Sanchez enjoyed the latter's company. He assisted Rizal in beautifying the town plaza. In Dapitan, Rizal had an exemplary life, idyllic in serenity. During the early days of November 1893, Rizal was living peacefully and happily at his house in Talisay, a kilometer away from Dapitan. His blissful life was then suddenly jolted by a strange incident involving a spy of the friars. The spy, with the assumed name of Pablo Mercado and posing as a relative.
Good morning, what can I do for you?
I am Pablo Mercado, your friend and relative. I have a picture of you and my initial.
Oh, nice to meet you. Come in.
In the course of their conversation, the strange visitor offered his service as a confidential courier of Rizal's letters and writings for the patriots in Manila. Rizal, being a man of prudence and keen perception, became suspicious. Irked by the impostor's lies, he wanted to throw him out of the house, but mindful of his duty as a host, he hospitably invited the unwanted visitor to stay at his house for the night. And early the next day, he sent him away. After the departure of Bogo's relative, Rizal attended to his daily course, forgetting the incident of the previous night. Later, he learned that the rascal was still in Dapitan, telling people that he was a beloved relative of Dr. Rizal. Losing his cool, he went to the Comandancia and denounced the impostor to Captain Juan Sitges. Rizal practiced medicine in Dapitan. He had many patients, but most of them were poor, so that he even gave them free medicine. In August 1893, his mother and sister arrived in Dapitan and lived with him for 1 year and a half. He operated on his mother's right eye. The operation was successful, but Doña Teodora, ignoring her son's instruction, removed the bandages from her eyes, thoroughly causing the wounds to be infected. Thus Rizal told Hidalgo, "Now I understand very well why a physician should not treat the members of his family." Fortunately, the infection was arrested so that Doña Teodora's sight, thanks to her son's ophthalmic prowess, was fully restored. Rizal's fame as a physician, particularly as an eye specialist, spread far and wide. He had many patients who come from different parts of the Philippines, from Luzon, Bohol, Cebu, Panay, Negros, and Mindanao, and even from Hong Kong. A rich Filipino patient, Don Ignacio Tumarong, was able to see again because of Rizal's ophthalmic skill. And highly gratified by the restoration of his eye, he paid 3,000 pesos. He supplemented his training as a surveyor by his reading of engineering books, so that he came to know about engineering.
In Apitan, he applied his knowledge of engineering by constructing a system of waterworks in order to furnish clear water to the townspeople. In 1893, he established a school which existed until the end of his exile in July 1896. It began with 3 pupils, and in the course of time an enrollment increased to 16 and later to 21. In his letter to Blumentritt on March 13, Rizal said that he had 16 pupils in his school and these pupils did not pay any tuition. Rizal taught his boys reading, writing languages, Spanish and English, geography, history, mathematics, arithmetic and geometry, industrial works, nature study, morals, and gymnastics. He trained them how to collect specimens of plants and animals, to love work, and to behave like men. Outside the class hours, Rizal encouraged them to play games in order to strengthen their bodies. They had gymnastics, boxing, wrestling, stone throwing, swimming, harness, native fencing, and bowling.
Linguistic studies. A born linguist, Rizal continued his studies of languages. In Apitan, he learned the Visayan, Subanom, and Malay languages. He wrote a Tagalog grammar, studied the Visayan or Cebuano and Subanom language. On April 5, 1896, his last year of exile in Apitan, he wrote to Blumentritt, "I know already Visayan and I speak it quite well. It is necessary, however, to know other dialects of the Philippines by this time." Rizal could rank with the world's great linguists. He knew 22 languages as follows: Tagalog, Ilocano, Visayan, Subanom, Spanish, Latin, Greek, English, French, German, Arabic, Malay, Portuguese, Sanskrit, Dutch, Catalan, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Swedish, and Russian. Rizal continued his artistic pursuits in Apitan. Rizal made sketches of persons and things that attract him in Apitan. He drew, for instance, the 3 rare species of animals like dragon, the frog, and the beetle, which he had discovered. He had sketches of numerous fishes he caught in the Apitan waters. In the Apitan, Rizal devoted much of his time to agriculture. He bought 16 hectares of land in Talisay, where he built his home, school, and hospital, and planted cacao, coffee, sugarcane, coconuts, and fruit trees. He wrote to his sister Trinidad, "My land is half an hour from the sea. It is very poetic and very picturesque here. If you and our parents come, I will build a big house we can all live in." Later, he acquired more lands until his total holdings reached 70 hectares. In a letter to Hidalgo, dated January 19, 1893, he expressed his plans to improve the fishing industry of the Apitan. He said that the town has a good beach like Calamba and there is abundant fish in the sea. However, the fishing folks, using primitive methods of fishing, were only able to catch small fishes. Accordingly, he instructed Hidalgo to help him buy a big new for trout fishing, or pukutan, and to send him 2 good Calamba fishermen who could teach the Apitan folks better methods of fishing. After the day's hard work, Rizal was often sad. He missed his family and relatives, his good friends in foreign lands, the exhilarating life in the cities of Europe, and his happy days in Calamba. The death of Leonora Rivera on August 28, 1893, left a poignant void in his heart. He needed somebody to cheer him up in his lonely exile. In God's own time, this somebody came to the Apitan. She was Josephine Bracken.
Magandang umaga, Dr. Rizal. Sinamahan ko po si Ginoong Cooper at si Senyorita Josephine para magpagamot sila.
Nice meeting you, senyor. Pleasure to meet you, senora.
The pleasure is mine.
I hope you could operate my eyes. As you were recommended by a doctor in Asia. It's the greatest ophthalmologist in Asia. I had to see you. Could you help me regain my eyesight?
Well, I have to do my checkup first. But I will do my best.
Rizal and Josephine fell in love with each other at first sight. After a worldwide romance of 1 month, they agreed to marry. But Father Ubak, the priest of the Pitan, refused to marry them without the permission of the Bishop of Cebu.
How do you find Philippines, señorita?
I have never been to a tropical country like this.
Is that so?
Yes, indeed. So I could only give you a minimal comments, merely from my observations.
Is that so? You will soon admire this place. And for sure, you will love this place. Just like how I love you.
When Mr. Toffer heard of their projected marriage, he flared up in a violent rage. Unable to endure the thought of losing Josephine, he tried to commit suicide by cutting off his throat with a razor. Rizal, however, grabbed his wrist and prevented him from killing himself. To avoid a tragedy, Josephine went with Toffer to Manila with the first available steamer.
The blind man, went away uncured because of his ailment, was very well in nature.
Hence incurable. Mr. Toffer returned alone in Hong Kong. Josephine stayed in Manila with Rizal's family. Later, she returned to the Pitan since no priest would marry them. Rizal and Josephine held hands together and married themselves before the eyes of God. They lived as man and wife. Dr. Valenzuela arrived in the Pitan in the evening of June 21, 1896. Rizal, ever a hospitable host, welcomed him. After supper, the two had a heart-to-heart talk in the garden. Valenzuela told him of the Katipunan plan and of the necessity of his support. Rizal objected to Bonifacio's audacious project to plunge the country in the bloody revolution. He was of the sincere belief that it was premature, for 2 reasons.
The people are not ready for a revolution. Arms and funds must first be collected before raising the cry of revolution.
Volunteers as military doctor in Cuba. Months before the Katipunan contacted him, Rizal had offered his service as a military doctor in Cuba, which was then in the throes of a revolution and a raging yellow fever epidemic. Rizal wrote to Governor General Blanco, Lispujo's successor, on December 17, Governor 1895, offering his service as military doctor in Cuba. Months passed and he received no reply from Malacanang. He gave up hope that this humanitarian offer would ever receive government approval. When he least expected it, a letter from Governor Blanco dated July 1, 1896 arrived in the Pitan notifying him of the acceptance of his offer. July 31, 1896, Rizal's 4-year exile in the Pitan came to an end. He embarked on board the steamer España. He was accompanied by Josephine, Narcisa, Angelica, Narcisa's daughter, his 3 nephews, and 6 pupils. 49 almost all the Pitan folks, young and old, were at the shore to bid him goodbye. Many wept as the steamer sailed away, especially the other pupils who were too poor to accompany their beloved teacher to Manila. As the steamer pushed out into the sea, Rizal gazed for the last time in the Pitan, with his hands waving in farewell salute to its kind and hospitable folks and with the tears of nostalgic memories. When he could no longer see crying, heartfelt and the dim shoreline, he sadly went to his cabin and wrote in his diary,
I have been in that district for 4 years, 13 days, and a few hours.